Gerrit 3.12, I think it was released maybe a week late because we had a bit of a bigger change that went in. The day before we wanted to cut the final release, so we decided to do an RC6, which wasn't scheduled. So Gerrit 3.12 was officially released yesterday. And today we'll go through some of the main points on it. Luca presented some of the features. I think it was in March, but maybe it was in February. I'm not 100% sure at the minute. Hey Malvika, we just started. And yeah, let's get see what some of the highlights have been about GerritForge. If you don't know us, so yeah, we do a lot of Gerrit, and everything we do is open source. We have been the heart of the Gerrit community for the last 15 years, I would say. We cut all the new releases, and we help customers or big enterprises scale the Gerrit installations. We also offer Gerrit as a service on GCP and Git at high speed if you're struggling with your Git performances on GitHub or GitLab or other Git-based SCM systems. We can also help you with that. All right, and let's get to us. Today's agenda for what concerns me, so I'll be talking about Gerrit 3.12 in numbers, see how the contribution chart is going. It's actually quite interesting. A few surprises. A very brief demo of upgrading to Gerrit 3.12. Actually, super simple demo. I'll then go through over some of the release highlights and some of the breaking changes, and then any questions that people might have. So this is Gerrit Core. We can see that Google has actually contributed around 55% of the commits to to Gerrit, which I think it shows a very healthy ecosystem. Obviously, you've got Google committing a lot, but GerritForge 15%, SAP also 14.2%, Wikimedia Foundation also contributing a lot. There is Qualcomm. I have a feeling that the Qualcomm contributions are somewhat underrepresented there, because I know that a few of the Qualcomm guys have been switching in between email accounts, so maybe the chart underrepresents their contributions. But anyway, a lot of companies contributing a lot of code, so that's always good to see. For what concerns the Gerrit plugins ecosystem, it's unfortunately since JGear has been hosted on the clips on GerritHub.io, we've actually it has changed the name of it, and we don't collect the namespace in our analytics. We're going to try and fix this for next time. But so this graph actually doesn't represent the contributions to JGear. So we can see that for all the other plugins, I know we contribute a lot, but maybe I wasn't expecting quite 80%. And then SAP, Wikimedia contributing a lot. Few guys from Gmail, I want to see, well, I might want to dig into what the 1.65% is, but we'll see. But a lot of commits. 1,090 commits. That's a lot. So if we look at if we look including JGit in this graph, we now reach 1,600 commits. 16,000 is a bit too many. 1,600 commits in the plugin ecosystem, which I believe is very much a lot. Luca actually lost the top spot. Luca, you might need to get back onto working a bit harder, I guess. So we've got Edwin with almost 14%, and then Luca, Milutin, Matthias, Nitzen, so everybody contributing a lot. But the top contributor is actually everybody else, which is always good to see. So you've got like your historic main contributors, and then you've got a healthy community of contributors around that, which I think represents a healthy ecosystem, essentially. Looking at the top 5 organizations for the last month, so we can see that Google contributed roughly 50%. GerritForge contributed 19, and then we've got SAP and Wikimedia Foundation, and then Linaro is the organization that the Qualcomm guys are switching to, and then finally we've got Access Communications as well, contributing some stuff in there. Looking at a graph, so how it compares to 3.11 and 3.12, we can see that the Gerrit Code contributions are kind of keeping on the same trend, maybe a slowdown in the slowdown. However, the plugins ecosystem, it's been skyrocketing. I wanted to dig out some more data into which plugins specifically. However, our analytics had some issues as soon as I got this data out, and I wasn't able to dig into that. I might add something in the YouTube comments afterwards. But yeah, so we can see definitely like an inversion in trends in the plugin ecosystem, and like a lot of work happening lately. So yeah, let's come to upgrading to 3.12, which is what everybody wants to do, of course. So it's only possible from 3.11. There's no schema changes when upgrading for 3.11, but all the indexes have been upgraded, so you need to reindex. And important, very important, if you're using H2 cache backend, you need to require either a cache migration, for which there's a tool for, or you could simply delete the cache and let them start from cold. I don't think I would recommend starting from cold, but I know of big installations that have done that, and there wasn't massive issues. So depends what you want to do essentially, and how much time you want to invest into the migration. And this obviously is for zero downtime. So we're assuming that you're in HA or multi-site, and so you can like upgrade one node at a time and then upgrade the other nodes and do a canary release or rolling upgrade of all nodes as you seem fit. So you can also upgrade with downtime. I mean, you can upgrade with downtime from whatever version you want, really. But when specifically upgrading to cache indexes, to 3.12, you need to remove the caches and the indexes because they need to be recreated. And you can upgrade in one leap with offline reindex. However, you always need to remember, if you're upgrading from 3.5, you then need to upgrade. You need to stop in 3.5, run the copy approval script. You can also run it in 3.6, but see a bit how you feel. The tool is there in 3.5. If you have a 3.6, you could have a 3.5 in parallel that doesn't do anything other than providing you the features to run the copy approval. But yeah. You can upgrade from 3.6 as long as you run the copy approval script. Very quick show of how to do this. So let's see how that goes. I'm going to put my microphone down. I've got a Gerrit running in my migration test temporary folder. So if I go on my localhost, we can see I've got a Gerrit 3.11.3 up and running. With no repositories, it's quite empty, so maybe let's create something just for fun. Let's give it a few changes, why not? Test change 1. All right, and then upgrading is as simple as you stop the node. So GSO is nothing more than a, sorry, I should probably increase the font. GSO is nothing than an alias I've got locally for GerritSH stop. And then we go into bin, we copy the Gerrit 3.12 var into and replace the Gerrit var. We do an init again of the right environment. That would help. So that shouldn't take too long at all. You then need to run the offline reindex. We need to delete the caches because otherwise it might fail. In this case, it won't fail because my caches are empty. By few. So I'm gonna remove everything here that from star. So that's all deleted. And now if I run reindex .bin var. Okay, and then if I do a git start, sorry, not git start, Gerrit start, starts up the server, and then if we come back to here, we can see now this has been upgraded to the 3.12. All right, pretty straightforward. Obviously, simple, very simple case, but as easy as that. Replace the var. We'll see now that there's a few nuances to this on more, like if you've got plugins installed and all. So back to some release highlights before I leave you in the capable hands of Martin. So Right. The language level is set to Java 21, so you need to use Java 21. You can't use Java 17. You need to rebuild everything. Plugins, non-core plugins, Gerrit itself, everything needs to be rebuilt with Java 21. There's no possibility of rebuilding the code with Java 17. So that's out of the way. Gerrit 3.11 was already compatible with the Java 21, but it still also supported 17. Gerrit 3.12 does not. Native packages. So the GerritForge distribution keys have changed and need to be imported before you upgrade. But otherwise, the Alma Linux has been upgraded to v9.5. Ubuntu Linux has also been updated. And then Mac OS, I don't know if people remembered that we've added brew support to install Gerrit. So you can do brew install Gerrit or brew install Gerrit 3.12, and it will install an example setup for you. And so that's also been updated to support Gerrit 3.12 and all the previous versions. So that's the admin out of the way. Some release highlights. So first of all, there's some new metrics for index consistency. Malvika, I'm looking at you. So there's we've got some we track the number of documents and indexes in each of the Gerrit instances. So there's 4 new gauge metrics: index accounts, changes, groups, and projects. So this, if you've got a multi-site setup, this is extremely helpful to help figure out, are my indexes in line? Are they up to date? What's happening? Am I out of sync? Do I need to trigger a re-index? So opens up a wealth of possibilities. And so Malvika nodding. We'll get there. We'll get there, Malvika. We'll get there.
But that is 3.12. It's going to be in 3.12.
It is already in 3.12. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're not too far. We'll get there. Format edit in commit message. This Luca, I think, already quickly talked about it in Feb, but this is extremely helpful. So when you go to edit the commit message, like sometimes you write the line, it's too long, and then you need to wrap it manually afterwards. With the format, you just click format and it wraps everything for you. Now, if you've got lists, put the lists all in one line, or it condensed them on not in one line, but on a single line rather than a new line. So sometimes it annoys me a bit, but overall it's a pretty good improvement. Like on a standard commit message, it helps a lot. And then you can also undo it. So if you click format and then you don't like it, you can undo, and then you can do whatever you want really. There's an we allow global override for copy conditions. So essentially now the final copy condition is always whatever label condition you've configured, and not a copy restrictions, and then a copy enforcement. Now, this can be helpful, like if you want to make sure, for example, label copy enforcement, you could set it so that all negative votes are copied over from the previous patch set. Or similarly, like the label copy restriction could be used for making sure that only the trusted contributors are allowed to submit changes without reviewers reconfirming that their comments have been addressed. So there's quite a few things that you could use this for. Comes in handy. It just gives the admins more flexibility on how the labels are going to be copied over to the next patch set. Can be quite helpful. Another one that I quite like, I believe this was Minutin that contributed. So now the UI allows you to expose severe requirements explanation. So before in 3.11, if code review wasn't satisfied, it wouldn't really tell you why it wasn't satisfied. While now in 3.12, it gives you, like, you've got a bit of a status. So this is, in the configuration of the submit requirement, you can add a description of it. And so it will show changes must have, well, whatever you've put in your description will show up. So if you want to try and explain why a submit requirement or how the submit requirement is satisfied, you can add it in the description and it will show up in the UI there. We've improved handling of draft comments. Malvika, again, I'm looking at you. So we've added a few endpoints to clean up draft comments. So draft comments are are quite interesting. So it's not an atomic operation. Publishing draft comments in Gerrit is not an atomic operation. So first the comments are copied to the target repo, and then they're deleted from the all users. However, if I say Gerrit crashes in between this operation, then you would have draft comments that remain there, and the user would see the published comments and then also the draft comments, which is quite confusing and very subpar. Furthermore, if you've got a situation where you've got like a query that looks for has drafts, your change would show up, but then it might not have any drafts actually when you click on it. So we've added some tools around that. So there's an API endpoint that you can use to clear up draft comments that have already been published. There's also an SSH command that you can use, as well as a background job if you want to configure it so that it goes in automatic and deleting all the jobs. We've improved, this one I actually love. Sasha from SAP contributed this. I cannot thank you enough. Thank you so much. So the trace IDs are now added to the Git over SSH requests. So it makes it a lot easier to understand where your trace is happening and how your trace is evolving. So before, you would have to do a lot of timestamp matching between the different log files and figure out, okay, first of all, all the traces were not added to all the log entries. So if you had a trace, if you traced a request, that trace ID would be added to some extra log lines, but not actually in the SSH log or the HTTPD log entries. So now that's added there. But, and I'm jumping a bit across for myself to the next slide here, we've also added well, I'll get it onto the next slide. But essentially, it makes it extremely helpful to trace requests. And also, we've added it to the Git over SSH command. So if you're tracing like some Git over SSH, which wasn't traced before, now you can trace it. So yeah, this helps a lot us admins managing a server. And then there's some new migrate label functions tools. So if you want to enable offline migration of the label functions to submit requirements, if you're still at that stage, you can. So there's a tool that helps you do that. This is important, and this is also a bit of a breaking change. Admin gains access to all refs. So all the power to us admins. Users with administrative service capability can now see all the changes, branches, and tags, including private changes and refs meta config. All right. So we don't have to go to users and say, can I see this? Can I see that? Send me that. No, admins can now see all the refs. It breaks, so you do need to be careful about this because it means that all of your admins are going to have access to that information. So you need to review who has access or who has this capability provided. But it is extremely helpful to help speed up investigations. There's a new REST API to enable group delete functionality. So yeah, group deletion is a bit of a problem at the minute. There's quite a bit of work going on in the user deletion, group deletion space. Part of it is this new REST API to enable group deletion. Now, I also know that there is a change out there for a button, so that when you go on the UI of a group, you can also delete it from the button. That has not been merged yet, and it's but yeah, hopefully we'll get there soon. And then finally, what I was talking about earlier, we've added the SSH session ID in the error log. And I love this. So you know how the SSH log is extremely helpful because you've got session ID, and so you can see when someone logged in, and then what the command was, the command that was run, and then the log out. But then you would have to do the timestamp matching onto the error log to see, oh, what error is associated to that session. But it would be sometimes quite hard. Now the same session ID is added to any log that is added to the error log. So that makes it extremely simple to figure out what errors happened during a specific SSH session. That's it for the cool stuff. A few notes on breaking changes. So we've got deprecated. Prolog rules are disabled. That was my fault. If you've got to complain, come to me. I did that. So they've been deprecated since 3.6. So I thought it was about time that we actually disabled them by default. So you can't add any more prolog rules. I actually think I don't want to say something stupid, but if you try and add a new rules PL, it might actually stop you from doing that. So yeah, Gerrit administrators are required to inform all the project owners that they need to migrate to submit requirements. You can use the tool that I mentioned earlier, but yes, get off prolog rules. You can still enable it. You can still change the setting and enable it.
But as you just said, you suspect that if I try to update my prolog rules,
yes, no, it will definitely it won't let you create new prolog rules. If you try and update the current ones, it might object, but also your current ones might just also not work as expected. So yeah, I would get off product rules. Disabled reindex of events. This is something that bit me in the past, and I did I did an upgrade, and then it was stuck in a reindexing loop between multi-site nodes. So I suspect this has something to do with that problem I had. But yeah, it used to. So essentially, if you restarted a node, it would start, if you reindexed on a node, it would then trigger all of those reindexing events to all the nodes, which is pretty pointless. So those are not triggered anymore. If there's multiple nodes that need reindexing, you need to reindex all the nodes individually. And then finally, for JGit upgrades, we've added support for mid-X files. This was actually a guy from Google that did this. Super excited to have this in JGit finally. And I will plan on using it soon. And then finally, Gerrit is back on using JGit master. I think internally at Google they're still not, because upgrading Java versions, there's some problem with Java versions and all, and it's a whole business inside of Google and their mono repos. But the open source version is actually back on using JGit master. And I think Matthias is doing a lot of work to maintain 2 branches that can still work with whatever version Google uses internally. And that's me, really. Any questions?
How does it in practice?
Well, I suspect you're going to have issues, and you will need to make sure that those CRs are not using the group. Yeah, well, of course, you would have to give that permission to only to specific users. But then, yes, if your CRs will need to, you should only delete groups that you don't need anymore. Yeah, if you're deleting a group that you still need, you're going to have. I suspect there would be some trickery that you can do in all users to revert that decision, but it would be a bit of a Git open heart surgery that I wouldn't really recommend doing too much. Yeah.